EPG program in Japanese, paper 5, communication through translation, Honyaku Tsujete no communication. We are into module 34, that is the second last of this series of 35 modules. Learn while practicing translation. Joint statement is the area. Jisen Shinagara Gakusuru, Kyodo Seime no Honyaku. The module has been developed together with Surbi Lal and Varalika Malik. And acknowledgement goes to Anu Kumari. All the three are the trainees in the OTTP program of CSER Nescare. Their contribution has been in content development as well as data collection and the base work. This module covers application of CPCI theory and translation techniques as the previous modules were also doing the same thing for translating joint statement in this particular case. Simplification through combination and permutation and looking through the prism of CPCI is the key feature. Handling the content in this particular case is joint statement, and the paragraph picked up is rule-based international order. The objectives and outcome remain almost same, but there is a slight difference in the approach which I would like all of you to focus on. This being the second last one, we would like you to focus on the technique for frame capturing in this particular module. This is the recapitulation from the previous module. So we found that while translating long or complex paragraphs, the key for way forward is simplification. And simplification means go sentence by sentence, go segment by segment, or selection of techniques, engage without indulgence is the very important factor which you should keep in your mind. You should go deeply into the sentence, but it should not be indulgence or engagement with beyond a certain level. Then in 5W1H versus frame plus 5W1H, it was found that better to stick to the simpler one to begin with, that is the frame plus 5W1H. 5W1H application depends on individual's ability. There is a fear of complacency creeping in after some time. Therefore, it's advisable to go for frame plus 5W1H. It's relatively easy, increases the comfort level, and thereby ensures the accuracy. To find topic or the subject when it is missing in sentence, conjunctions such as mata or shikashi gives the hint, and you need to go to the previous sentence or the previous segment to fetch the subject or the topic. To deal with the kanji compounds, we notice that deciphering the elemental relationship could be a tough task, though it is useful in clear understanding. Proper nouns may be left untouched because if once you know that this is the equivalent for a particular proper noun, even if it is implicit, this must be maintained as a core equivalent because it's a proper noun. Such proper nouns may be considered as unit. For example, Boe Sesakutaiwa, that is for defense policy dialogue. Building corpus of units will go a long way in scale up. Back or the reverse translation is an effective tool to check the accuracy of the translated text. That means source language once translated into a particular target language, if it is translated back into the source language and the last translation, that is the source language which has come out, and the original source language, the two can be matched to see whether the translations done. If they are not accurate, then the problem could be at two stages, that is the first stage from source language to target language, or it could be from target language to the source language. Let's go to this module's examples that is related to the joint statement, and the paragraph is a rule-based international order. The rule-based international order itself seems that something sacrosanct or something complicated. That is what is visible in these 4.5 lines. Also seems all black at the moment. Let's try to make it simpler, and you can see the same in the case of English translation also. And this English translation, because there are names coming, the two prime minister, the reaffirmed English words are known, slightly more comfortable as compared to the Japanese, but not so simple. So English translation is obtained through frame plus 5W1H approach, but not sure about the accuracy because enough care has been taken to put frame into use together with 5W1H, but let's see whether the accuracy was maintained or not. Accuracy is of prime importance, particularly when the content is not so well understood, and in this particular case, this being a joint statement is all the more important. Therefore, let us reconfirm, stick to the time tested frame plus 5W1H and segment wise. So let's break the sentence into smaller sentences or segments. In this case, there are 4 segments which come out here. So segmentation is one tool for simplification. You can see the sentences are looking simpler now, and it is sentence to clause to unit level. Now let's translate sentence by sentence. The frame is picked up here. The 2 prime ministers reaffirmed for Rio Shinova Saika Kunishta. This has come in the previous module also. So let's go with the 5W1H straight away. Nani o Saika Kunishta? Yes, Varalika.
Kyoyu no commitment o Saika Kunishta.
Okay. So Kyoyu no commitment o. That was the question was Nani o, and the answer is Kyoyu no commitment o Nan no tame no
Kakuheiki no kanzen na haizetsu no tame no.
Okay. So the 2 prime ministers reaffirmed shared commitment for the complete elimination of nuclear weapons. Good way of translating shared. Kyoyu no translated for shared. Fine. The 2 prime ministers reaffirmed, and then this is the Japanese TR for that. Reverse translation is also available and not so different. So let's see the elements which can be used for comparing, or which can be used for looking at the CPCI aspect. Commitment to the elimination. The 2 is getting translated as no tame no in this particular case, but if we pick up only 2, it will not serve any purpose, because 2 will have huge number of equivalents in Japanese. So let's pick up commitment to the elimination. Commitment to the elimination. So it's not the verb. To the elimination means to the process of elimination or to the concept of elimination. So it's coming as a noun or as a box. And the reverse translation is commitment for elimination. Slight difference is there. So very clearly it's commitment for elimination is, you're explaining. Commitment to elimination, that means there is a particular process or a concept or a noun, and there's a commitment made to do that. So implicit at unit level, when compared the Japanese to English to Japanese, is haizetsu no tame no commitmento. Okay. So selecting unit. Here we saw that selecting 2 as unit does not serve any purpose. It will not stand true universally. Therefore, the concept of quasi-universal unit that covers, the broader unit or broader area, broader or more elements as one unit should be picked up as unit here. Now this is sentence 2. Ryo Shinova Juyose o kyochoshita. So they have taken freedom of adding a word Juyose o kyochoshita. Fine. Okay. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe emphasized the importance. Nan no Juyose desu ka?
Haiki.
Soki. Soki hakko no
Juyose.
Okay. So and nan no soki hakko desu ka?
Hokatsu teki kakujikken kinshi joyaku.
Okay. So there is some joyaku. Hokatsu teki kakujikken kinshi joyaku. So because this seems to be a proper noun, bracket gives CTBT. So CTBT is known, it's comprehensive test ban treaty, and test is nuclear. So in the English it is comprehensive nuclear test ban treaty. Fine. Okay. So Prime Minister Shinzo Abe emphasized the importance of the early entry into force. Early entry into force. I think we'll have to take up this particular phrase. Let's do that in the next part. Now this was a smart frame, because instead of picking up Ryo Shinova Kyochoshita, both the Varalika and Surbi team, they picked up one more element, that is Juyose and the particle O, which could have been covered in one question otherwise. So they have saved on one question, so that's why it's called smart frame. Smart frame is, as I said, Ryo Shinova Kyochoshita. The smart frame concept, let me explain. Ryo Shinova Kyochoshita is the basic frame. Adding Juyose to it makes it smart. So Juyose plus O, of course, but smart has to be really smart. That means you have to ensure the accuracy and it should be substantive. Let's see the second sentence. CPCI, stressed, kyochoshita, stressed and kyochoshita. Kyochoshita is more towards emphasized, so I think the Japanese translation to reverse translation is more accurate. Stressed being translated into kyochoshita is a peripheral equivalent, and this peripheral equivalent is coming from the context. In the context, when the Prime Minister Abe stressed the importance of entry into, so he's stressing, putting more energy and stressing, equivalent is coming kyochoshita. And this is from the previous slide, that soki as a prefix in soki hakko is the adjective and can be kept aside. Other examples could be soki hakken, soki taishoku, and soki kaiketsu, soki daketsu also. Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, as I said in the beginning, also is a proper noun. So there's a proper equivalent for this noun, and that is Hokatsu Teki Kaku Jikken Kinshi Joyaku. It should be saved as a core equivalent at the unit level. The reason being that it can also be translated as Kaku Hokatsu Teki. The Teki in the Hokatsu Teki may not be required. It could be Hokatsu Kakujikken. Now it's debatable whether Hokatsu can come without Teki and still have the same meaning, and there's no other extra element. I think, yeah, no other extra element is there, rest is fine. So one-to-one equivalence is also there. So elemental level relationship, what is being seen here is that adjective comprehensive behaves in a similar way through Japanese, though Japanese is more explicit. Kaku or nuclear is a concept and not adjective, and therefore Kakujikken may be considered a unit, overall unit. So what is being talked a while ago is that nuclear is, it appears an adjective, but what is a noun for the nuclear? It's not nucleus. When you say nucleus, it can have many meanings. So although it is related to nucleus, but nucleus is a static word, you can say. But when you say nuclear, there's some dynamism coming to it. So it's used as a noun only. Therefore, one has to be careful, and that stands particularly true when it's a proper noun. So elemental relation, of course, as I said just now, if you say same example, that is Hokatsuteki Kakujikken Kinshi Joyaku, Hokatsuteki na Kaku no Hokatsuteki na Kaku no Jikken o Kinshi Suru Joyaku. In Soki Hakko, Hatsu in Hakko is start of, and Ko stands for Koryoku, that is in effect. So something is in effect, and Hatsu means coming into effect. So start of in effect is coming into effect. A good example of unit. This is the third sentence, and third sentence is little longer as compared to the previous one, but there is a katakana, long katakana word coming into it, and there is a long long word, you can say, Joyaku, FMCT Joyaku. You can see that number of characters, it's Kaku as 1, Heiki as 2, Yo is joining, then Kaku Bun Retsu, Kaku is of course 1, Bun Retsu, then Se, Bun Retsu Se, so Se is a suffix, and then Bushitsu, then Seisan, then Kinshi and Joyaku. So it's quite explanatory. So let's go, we'll do it later. Let's go for the frame plus other part. Yes, Varalika, you tell me, you have taken a longer frame here, Ryoshunova, what's written there? Shannon mandate. Sokuji kaishi oyobi.
Sokuji kaishi oyobi haiki daketsu o motometa.
Soki daketsu o motometa. So Ryoshino wa motometa, ni motozuite motometa, and o motometa. So there are 2-3 things taken together. So I think it's a smart frame. Let's see whether it works well or not. The two leaders on the basis of Shannon mandate, called for immediate commencement and early conclusion. Nan no sokuji kaishi desu ka?
Kakuheiki yo kaku bunretsu seibutsu shitsu seisan kenshi joyaku kosho.
Okay, simpler was FMCT, no kosho no sokuji kaishi o motometa. Donna joyaku?
Musabetsu takukukan no kensho kano.
Yeah, you have to be careful. See, the one adjective is coming musabetsu, the second adjective is takokukan no, and takokukan is taking no with this, and the third adjective is occurring in the form of a compound, and that also at a distance. Kensho kano, and na is the element which shows that it's an adjective. So it's indiscriminate, then multilateral, and then verifiable. Okay. Now, musabetsu, takokukan no, and kensho kanona are adjective to joyaku. At the same time, you need to catch here that kokusai teki and koka teki ni are the adverb to kensho, and this kensho is coming in the kensho kano adjective, kensho kanona in that adjective. Katsu is used to separate these adjectives and adverbs because they are coming intermingled. There's an adverb, there's an adjective which has got kensho kanona, and kensho kanona is taking an adverb, or rather two adverbs with it, because there is a verb in it, and that verb is kensho. So kensho kanona is taking kokusai teki and koka teki ni. Then no in takokukan no is to connect to the noun, that is joyaku. So micro frame or more questions could have been the solution in this case. Let's go for one more question, that is do kensho suru no ka?
Kokusai teki, koka teki.
Okay, this is next question. Kokusai teki and koka teki ni kensho suru. In fact, it's a bit, this is we have already done this translation, so it's easy to explain. Unless, let's go to the next slide. The next slide. Yeah. See, verifiable, kensho kanona. This, because something could not be resolved, so this word was taken separately, and then it became clear that this needs to be handled separately. Let's now go back to the previous slide. Yeah, this one. See, the translation has come here, and the smart frame capturing, it was a failure in this case. Macro, micro, or more questions would have been smarter move. Element level capturing is important. It was important to first notice the adjectives in this case. Now you'll ask me, why not adverbs to be noticed first? Adjectives are very simple things. They can be dropped. So pick up those adjectives first, and they're coming with the noun, so they are less harmful or less troublesome, I should say, in translation. Whereas adverbs, they're going with the verb, and you need to identify the verb properly. Elemental relationship in this particular case, one very long word was there. That is kaku, heiki, yo, kaku, bonretsu, se. So I think this part has got certain elements which explain. For example, kaku heiki no kaku is adjective. Its heiki is armed, and kaku is a nuclear arm. Then kaku heiki yo is a suffix, but the meaning is meant for kaku heiki. And the next is kaku bunretsu. This kaku bunretsu is actually it's going with kaku. And then rest is fine, I think. Bushitsu, seisan, kinshi, joyaku is fine. So it's kaku no heiki yo plus bunretsu se plus bushitsu no seisan o kinshi suru joyaku. And yeah, this is the one which we had just begun, the last one. So how to find out, or how to handle it? Replace, for example, in kensho kanona, replace kanona kano with dekiru. So kensho dekiru, does it make some sense now? Kanona makes it verifiable and adjective for joyaku. So kensho dekiru tells you that it's a verb. So kensho kanona has got one verb element within it, and kensho kanona equal to verifiable is a core at the unit level. What you require to take care here is that in this particular case that there are 3 adjectives, yes, 3 adjectives, 2 adverbs and 1 hidden verb. This hidden verb was hidden inside 1 adjective. Kensho Kanona gives a strong hint to understand the frame, and Kensho Kanona is an adjective but has a verb that could be identified because of the adverbs that were present in the sentence. Called for start, Kaishi o motometa, and the same call for start in reverse translation also, and this is peripheral because core equivalent to seek, core equivalent is to seek. For motometa, what is being said in Japanese is called. So pick up core equivalent in the beginning, and if need be, then fine tune contextually in the due course of time. Sentence 3 is Ryoshunova motometa. This is the smallest possible frame. This we are not going for the new sentence. In the same sentence, we are trying to discuss now about the frame capturing. You tried a my team actually tried a slightly smart frame, and that was Ryoshunova Soki Daketsu motometa. 2 elements added in the above frame, and these 2 elements are Daketsu and Soki, and then O, actually 3 elements basically, but O is coming as a particle. And Ryoshunova, you can also add 1 more element, Sokuji Kaishi Oyobi Soki Daketsu motometa. The sentence now looks a little heavy, and since O is going with both the nouns, using either of the 2 nouns is sufficient for capturing. So in any case, the one out of the 2 can be dropped. Either you can drop Soki Daketsu or you can drop Sokuji Kaishi. And let's add 1 more, which was done by the team while translating. Shanon mandetni motozuite. Not so difficult, of course, but this actually makes it complicated, and when you try to apply this frame on the other elements, the frame becomes too heavy, and you will find it's not getting connected very easily. So adding too many components makes the frame heavy, and it will be difficult to apply it to the other segments. Therefore, the key here is that you should find out which level of frame you would capture in the beginning. Going to the smart frame is definitely, I would like all of you to be smart, and smart frame is the good way of doing. But if it troubles you, then it's not smart, it's a foolish frame. So smallest frame is the best. Just try adding elements, but do not allow it to become too heavy. Now we are doing the same sentence again with the smaller frame, that is Ryoshunova motometa. The 2 prime ministers called for, and the questions are listed here: Nanio motometa, Nanno Kaishi, Nanno Kosho, Donna FMCT, and answers are coming very simple: Sokuji Kaishi Oyobi Soki Daketsu. Even 1 would have been okay. Then Nanno Kaishi is Kosho no Kaishi. Then Nanno Kosho is Kaku Heiki yo Kaku Bunretsu Seishitsu. So it's Joyaku no. So you can say FMCT no Kosho. This could have been probably 1 question, but they probably wanted to be very sure this time. So number of questions increased. And Donna FMCT, just done in the previous slide. Musabetsu Takoku kan no Katsu Kensho Kanona. And Donna Joyaku desu ka? Kokusai teki, Koka teki ni. Now let's see further. Still 1 segment is there. Shanon mandetni motozuite. That can be taken as a unit separately, and as a unit it comes on the basis of Shannon mandate, quasi universal unit. Now putting the components of 5W1H and unit together, it comes as the 2 prime ministers, S is missing here, sorry. The 2 prime ministers called for the immediate commencement and early conclusion of negotiations of non-discriminatory, multilateral and internationally and effectively verifiable fissile material cutoff treaty on the basis of Shannon mandate. Let's now compare the 2, and we see that accurate translation could be obtained when appropriate microframe was selected and all the 5W1H macro frame was selected, and all the 5W1H questions were connected. Heavier the frame, more it becomes difficult to link it to microframes, 5W1H questions and different elements. Therefore, select the macro frame appropriately. Shannon mandate ni motosite 2 could have been covered through 5W1H, but as it is, it's an independent clause and do not influence other elements directly, so it can be taken as a unit and handled separately also. Let's go to the next sentence. The next sentence is Mata Ryoshinova Kaku Kaksan Oyobi Kaku Terrorism no Kadai ni Taisho Suru Tame no Kokusai Kyoryoku no Kyoka ni Muketa Ketsui o Hyomeshita. Okay. Both the, again, this time slightly smart. Okay. Ryoshinova Ketsui o Hyomeshita. This much I think is okay. It's one single noun plus O plus verb. Okay, the question is Donna Ketsui o hyomeshita?
Kokusai kyoryoku no kyouka ni muketa.
Okay, nan no tame no ketsui?
Kaku kakusan oyobi kaku terrorism no kadai ni taisho suru tame.
Okay. Yeah, this is the translation. Okay. There is Mata here also. So Mata is a conjunction and is translated contextually as and. The published version, Japanese translation and the reverse translation not listed here, and while taking up CPCI aspect, let's go by some of the phrases. To address the challenges is translated as Kadai ni taisho suru. To address is an English word which is not easily translated in Japanese, so you'll find many equivalents. In this case it is Kadai ni taisho suru, and Kadai also for challenge is not core equivalent, but this is how it fits well in the context. So core equivalent for Kadai is issue, and ni taisho suru is an expression with peripheral equivalent, that is to address. So overall at the unit level it's peripheral. Then towards strengthening is kyoka ni muketa. Towards the strengthening is fine. Towards strengthening, kyoka ni muketa, I think is a core, because in English ni need not be translated. So kyodo muketa is not possible. So kyoka muketa is not possible. So kyoka ni muketa is required in Japanese, whereas towards strengthening in English is very much fine because it's preposition and then the noun coming from the verb, and this is core at unit as well as element level. It's kyoka ni muketa and kadai ni taisho suru, both quasi-universal units. Now let me sum up the learning of this module. The concepts of universal and quasi-universal units are very useful. At first occurrence, particularly for the verbs, begin with the core equivalent and gradually fine-tune this equivalent to include in the database of units. Universal units are universally usable, while quasi-universals units are dynamic. Dynamic, it means that replaceable component of this unit is the dynamic part. Then combination of frame and 5W1H, even if the frame is kept in mind, there is something which is time-tested approach. So combination of frame and 5W1H is the time-tested approach. Appropriate macro frame capturing followed by sequential 5W1H questions can help in rendering near accurate translation. Lighter the frame, easier it becomes to translate accurately. Move to smart or smart plus heavier frame, but gradually. Now about the smart frame, or let me first say that this module we have focused on the frame capturing. How you capture the frame. The smallest frame is actually the best technique. Going beyond this smallest one is good, because then you'll be saving on time. But this should be attempted only when you have enough experience to do so. So one or two elements plus the smallest possible meaningful frame is the smart frame. It can cut down the process. There's no doubt about it. Level up ultimately leads to super smart frame. That means that your whole sentence will act as a super smart frame, and you are aware that there is a main frame or a macro frame within that super smart frame, but it's there in your mind. So your cognition level increases. It has to be done only where the process happens in cognizant manner. Equivalent compound terms in Japanese usually are explicit in terms of use of elements, but implicit in terms of the particles. Therefore, understanding the elemental relationship is in compound terms and building corpus of compound term units becomes extremely significant. That's all in this module, including the learning. These are some of the references which can be used for further study. Thank you once again, and see you in module 35 in continuation of the same series, that is the joint statement.